You sit down at a dimly lit bar, across from someone who seems perfect on paper. The first 5 minutes are electric, but by minute 20, the energy evaporates. The conversation feels heavy, and your initial attraction drops to zero. We tend to assume that gathering more details about a person will naturally grow our affection for them. However, social psychologists have documented a different pattern. As we acquire more information, the most common result is actually a steady decline in how much we like the other person. When we first meet, a lack of information allows us to project our own values onto a stranger. Ambiguity creates a false sense of similarity. But as those blanks are filled in with real data, familiarity often leads to a sense of mismatch. Avoiding this drop-off requires a specific behavioral protocol. You have to identify the conversational habits that reveal too much too soon and utilize strategic absence to maintain your allure. Masterful mystery is achieved through the deliberate control of information flow. By being selective with what you reveal, you allow others the psychological room to project their ideal traits onto you, sustaining attraction without resorting to being cold or distant. To understand why oversharing kills attraction, we can look at a joint study from MIT and Harvard Business School. Behavioral scientist Michael I. Norton and his team wanted to investigate why affection tends to drop off a cliff immediately following a first date. They identified a psychological mechanism called the Dissimilarity Cascade. When you meet someone, you assume they share your worldview, but the moment you reveal a single mismatched trait, that assumption shatters. That one difference colors how they interpret every subsequent piece of information. This chart shows pre-date expectations compared to post-date realities across knowledge, liking, and similarity. Look at the inverse relationship. As the gray bar representing absolute knowledge goes up after the date, the bars for liking and perceived similarity drastically plummet. Because humans are wired to assume similarity at the start, handing them a mountain of raw data gives them the exact evidence they need to find differences and dismantle their idealized perception of you. The primary countermeasure to overtalking is a framework called the two-sentence drip. Step 1 of the drip is answering personal questions with extreme, warm brevity. Constrain your response to a maximum of 2 sentences. Step 2 is immediate redirection. The moment you finish your second sentence, pass the conversational momentum back by asking a targeted follow-up question. If someone asks about your week, do not launch into a 5-minute rant about your boss. Instead, say, "It's been demanding, but I'm finally wrapping up a major project. What have you been working on lately?" This framework succeeds on 2 fronts. It starves the listener of the excessive data required to trigger a dissimilarity cascade, and it makes them feel deeply heard and interesting. Controlling your verbal output is only half the protocol. In an era of constant digital updates, absolute accessibility is a massive liability. This brings us to strategic absence. Unannounced silence is the actual mechanism of power. If you are constantly updating everyone on your daily routine, there is zero psychological space left for another person to build anticipation or wonder what you are up to. Friction is necessary for intrigue. But remember the critical safety boundary. Maintaining true mystery requires leaving space. It is entirely different from acting cold, arrogant, or withholding warmth. Put this into practice today. People cannot fall for you if you don't give them empty space to fall into. Less is magnetic. Protect your ambiguity and let them fill the blanks.